Yo, what is going on, guys? Got a video for you here today from The Wall about women losing their minds over paternity tests, and it really makes you wonder as to why. Today's video was suggested to me by Matrix of Madness. I'm going to leave both of their channels linked in the pinned comments, so make sure you go and subscribe to these guys. Don't forget to leave your own comments, and let's jump right into the video.
So there's a little, I don't know what started this topic on Twitter. Apparently people are talking about asking women or their significant other for a DNA test and how it should be mandatory, and women shouldn't be upset. And I saw this one, and I was like, I agree that if you a dude and you feel like you got to get a DNA test, whether you married, a long time situationship, whatever y'all got going on.
If the laws regarding men and child support are going to remain the way they are, then it's not asking too much for a DNA test, because if that man is not the father of that child, he should not be under the same legal obligations as the biological father. It's really not asking too much.
If you feel that way, by all means, go do it. However, once you ask that question, once you ask her for a DNA test, and she want a divorce and want to break up with you, you can't be upset at that, bruh. Because my thing is, especially if you married, what the fuck is stopping you from getting a little snippet of your kid's hair or their toothbrush or whatever? You can easily get the DNA from the kid without her ever knowing, and doing whatever you need to do to get your peace of mind.
It's rather sad that we've reached a point in society where men even feel the need to do DNA testing for their children, but at the same time, with the way promiscuity has been celebrated over the last few decades, it makes complete sense. It's just a shame that it's come to this point at all.
I want to share some interesting facts about paternity tests. American Association of Blood Banks, AABB. According to a 2004 report by the AABB, approximately 25.92% of paternity tests conducted in accredited laboratories resulted in an exclusion of paternity. In other words, nearly 1 in 4 men tested were not the biological fathers. Ampligen Laboratory. This lab reports that between 15% and 30% of the paternity tests they perform result in an exclusion.
Let that sink in for a second, guys. 25 to 30% of fathers are taking care of children that aren't their own, with the mother keeping not only her infidelity a secret, but also the fact that she allowed her affair partner to have bedroom fun with her without the use of birth control. That is just wrong, man.
This means that 1 to 3 out of every 10 men tested are not the biological fathers. It's important to note that these percentages can vary depending on the context in which the tests are performed. For instance, in situations where there are doubts about paternity, it's more likely for these tests to be requested, which could lead to a higher percentage of exclusions. However, when considering men who have never undergone such tests, the actual percentage might be even higher.
The fact that the percentages are that damn high as they are is bad enough. There was a time when men didn't worry as much about this sort of thing. They just assumed that they were the actual fathers because there was a solid chance they actually were. But now, with loyalty being such an inconvenience to modern housewives, it's no real surprise that the percentages are as high as they are now.
So if you bring it up to her and you ask her and you're in a committed relationship, you want to get broken up with. It's not about the kid and wanting a peace of mind at that point. Because you can get the DNA. You can literally go grab their brush, get a piece of hair, get the kid, send it off, get it back without her ever fucking knowing. Get it sent to your partner house, your mama house, whatever the case may be, if you really wanted to know, you really had some doubt in your mind.
Demanding a DNA test from a woman is kind of a risky move, that is true. No man wants to question the love and loyalty of the woman he's with, but if he has his doubts, he has a right to know. It's incredibly unfair to trick men into raising and paying for children that aren't their own to begin with.
If you bring it up and you're in a committed relationship or marriage, you just trying to piss off. You trying to insinuate whatever the case you trying to insinuate. Because if it was really about you getting some peace of mind, it wouldn't be hard, bro. I'm sorry. So if she want a divorce and break up with you after that, I wouldn't blame her. Because that's your dumb ass fault. Y'all better start letting social media hype y'all up. Goddamn well, that's your kid. Go in there and goddamn wipe his ass.
Getting a paternity test without the mother finding out is really putting the guy between a rock and a hard place. If he asks her directly for a paternity test, she'll get furious at him for accusing her of cheating, and then she'll leave him. If he goes behind her back to get a test, then she'll be furious at him for lying to her and accusing her of cheating, and she'll leave him. Guys, at the end of the day, if the woman gets pissed off at you for asking, I think that just tells you everything you need to know. The kid's probably not yours.
Absolutely. You don't need to tell anyone if you decide to take a DNA test for your own peace of mind. What's interesting is that most men who take these tests fully trusted their partners. This shows that if DNA tests were mandatory, paternity fraud would likely be much more common than we think. Personally, I believe in the importance of these tests. I also think it's necessary to discuss these topics with your partner before having children.
It is perfectly reasonable for a man to want a DNA test. There's just this absurd stigma that if a man wants to get one, then he's apparently insecure, he's controlling, there's no trust there. Support immediately flocks to the woman while the man gets demonized for wanting to make sure he's raising a kid that is actually his own.
It's not about threatening to take a test, but about having an open conversation, making it clear that if you ever have kids, you will confirm paternity. This sets a precedent. Don't let anyone deceive you or make you raise Chad's kid. Remember, once you sign that paper, the state will hold you responsible, even if you're not the biological father. For example, in France, men are prohibited from taking DNA tests, and in some U.S. states like Texas, if the child isn't yours but you're married to the mother, you'll still be required to provide support.
The laws for child support make absolutely zero sense. They are written to screw over men financially while supporting the women simply because she is a woman. And men have practically zero protections from these laws. So men have to resort to this kind of stuff to protect themselves, and in some cases that's still not enough.
Brothers, don't be foolish. No one has to know you took a test unless the result comes back negative. If you have any doubts about the weight of the responsibility men bear, watch the next video.
Did you hear about the guy who recently found out that his sister is actually his mom? As per usual, I'm going to put his name right around here. If you want to go to his page and watch his videos, I implore you to do so. He has several parts to this, and he is a great storyteller.
Right off the bat, hearing that is just absolutely insane. A man found out that his mother was actually his sister. On so many levels, this is disturbing, and this is the kind of stuff that can mess a man up for life. This man was sold a massive lie, and it's kind of disgusting to hear.
I'm going to leave out some details that he includes, just because I'm trying to get straight to the point here, but just a heads up, I implore you to go watch his actual videos. This all started because he was moving from Canada to the U.S. and he applied to get a long-form birth certificate in order to do so. When he did that, they called him and said, hey, something on your birth certificate is wrong. He said, what? They said, well, your mother's name is incorrect. And he said, oh, I must have given you her married name. Here's her maiden name.
You can't help but feel bad for this guy. He's about to find out that his sister is actually his mother by talking to some random government worker. I can't imagine how horrible that must feel, especially when it's fairly obvious that woman was going to take that secret with her to her grave, by the way.
And they were like, nope, still wrong. And he said, okay, well, can you tell me what name you have listed? Because that's my mom. And they gave him his older sister's name. At this point, he finds out that his older sister and his younger brother actually share the same mom as him. So his sister is actually his older sister and his younger brother's and his biological mom. The person that they have been calling mom is Olive, their grandma.
That is straight up horrifying. The lies that were told to him go beyond just his sister, but his grandmother took a role in it as well. On one hand, it's understandable why, but on the other, this man was lied to from the very people he's supposed to trust. This can cause irreparable harm to a dude's mind.
He also found out that his older sister was aware that their sister was their biological mom, but his younger brother was not. His mom, apparently, his biological mom, apparently had them when she was 16, 17, and 18. And he asked his mom, that he grew up knowing as his mom, why they didn't question who his dad was. She said he didn't have a dad listed on his birth certificate, and that she didn't know who any of their dads were.
This story just keeps getting worse and worse. Not only did this guy's family lie to him for, who knows how long, it was all because his mother was sleeping around as well. It's crazy how far people will go in order to hide stuff like this.
God damn it!
I didn't know who the father of any of them was. This perfectly sums up how responsibility is kryptonite for many women. In this case, she had several children during her teenage years, and instead of taking on her role as a mother, she decided to dump the responsibility on her own mother, essentially saying, "Mom, you take care of my mess." Many women see the request for a DNA test as irrational because they fear it will expose uncomfortable truths.
Even when those truths are exposed, she'll still fly off the handle because she'll think it's a breach of trust because he got the test in the first place, even though it was her breaking of that trust that caused the whole mess to begin with.
That they cheated, were careless, or don't even know who the father of their children is. That's why, when a man asks for a DNA test, they resort to playing the victim. They use threats, try to shame him, or even talk about leaving the relationship because they fear being seen as irresponsible. But let's continue with this story, as it still holds more surprises.
You can always tell when a modern woman is trying to escape taking accountability for cheating. When she starts hurling insults, accusations, and making threats, it's the last bastion of the scoundrels known as these modern women.
His biological mom, who he grew up knowing as his sister, also had 2 kids that he knew as his niece and nephew, but they were also his half-siblings. So he had 4 half-siblings in total. At this point, he goes on the hunt to figure out who his biological father is. So him and his half-sister decide to do a DNA ancestry test thing. They do it at the same time so that they can see if they have the same dad or if they have separate dads, and kind of answer some of those questions.
It's insane how deep this rabbit hole goes. Those guys have the right to know who their father is, and it's disturbing that these kids have to go to these lengths like that just to find out. But it's completely understandable as to why. Their world was flipped entirely upside down by their mother's irresponsibility.
When the results of that come back, they figure out that they do have separate dads, so all of the kids do have separate dads, and that their dads were not related to them in any way, shape, or form, because he was having people in the comments ask if that was a possibility, and it is not. He is not. None of them are related to their dads. Someone also asked him, why don't you just ask your biological mom who the dad is, and he said he does not have a good relationship with her, so he doesn't want to ask her because he also, along with that, doesn't feel like she'll tell the truth.
He's absolutely right in not trusting his own mother. She had been lying to him for years. Even if he did ask her, it's not like she'd tell the truth anyway. He's not only on his own for this particular mission, he's also having to deal with the trauma that his own family lied to him for so many years, the people he is supposed to trust the most.
At this point, he makes a Reddit post, and from that Reddit post, the DNA Angels, which is an organization, reaches out and says, hey, we'd like to take on your case and we'd like to help you find your dad. From here, they start building out his family tree. This is where some other stuff comes into play that he talks about in his video with his grandpa, who he grew up knowing as his dad, and some crazy stuff that's going on with that. But I'll save that for you to go and watch that because he's going to do a whole nother series on that too. Also crazy. But
the fact that things have gotten as far out of hand as they have is bad enough, but it's good that there are still people out there who care enough to want to help a guy out to try and make sense of the mess his mother made for him.
Anyways, the DNA Angels end up giving him 2 surnames that they believe could be his biological.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
In short, the sister who turned out to be his mother has 4 children with different fathers. That woman definitely didn't waste any time. I wonder, didn't she have anything better to do? Was there no TV at her house that every man she was with left her with a child? This is devastating for any man. Imagine living your entire life in a lie.
4 different men. This guy's mother slept with 4 different men without any form of protection and then forced her mother to raise them as their own. It's the ultimate shaking of responsibility, and all it does is prove that she doesn't care about her own children.
Not knowing who your real father is. There are so many men in this same situation without even realizing it. Hugging kids, living in a happy home, and believing they're theirs when they could actually belong to the neighbor. I'm not saying all women do this, because not all women are the same. But the best way to ensure and build trust is through a DNA test. It's not about mistrust. It's about certainty and peace of mind for everyone involved.
It's hard to wonder whether or not normalizing DNA tests for fathers will ever be a thing. I don't think it will be because, the government doesn't really want men to freak out. On the one hand, men deserve the right to know if the children are actually his, but on the other hand, by normalizing it, modern women will see it as oppressive because there would be rules in place to keep them doing from, whatever they want. But I say just put it in anyway, to be honest. Who the hell cares?
Biological father. So he goes to his nephew, which is his half brother, and basically says, hey, can you ask my sister / biological mom if either of these two names sound familiar, if she thinks either of them could be my dad. So side note, the nephew / half brother, he did ask him if he knew anything about all of this, about them actually being brothers and not uncle and nephew. And he said yes, but he thought everybody knew.
How horrible must it feel that there are members of your family who know about the lie but just don't say anything? It's impossible to imagine that level of betrayal from your entire family. This man should just cut ties with his family and start over. He deserves a little peace after this.
He didn't know he was the only one that knew. He thought everyone knew, and they were just kind of knowing but going along with the charade of it. At this point, his biological mom and the mom that raised him both almost simultaneously send him the name of someone, and they both say, this is who your dad is. So he sends that person to the DNA angels, and they're like, no possible way, that's not your dad. Then send him the full name of the person that they do believe is his dad, along with a photo and a picture or like proof of some sort that this man is actually friends with his biological mom on Facebook.
Yes, leave it to Facebook to expose the dirty laundry. It's crazy the lengths this mother went to hide her misdeeds from her own children, only to be friends with that man on social media. She's clearly not only irresponsible, she's also perhaps not the brightest.
He said he sent that person to his biological mom, and the only response he got from her was the word seriously with an exclamation point. He ends the most recent update by saying he decided to go ahead and send this man a message, shows the message that he sent him, and it's basically him just saying, hey, I think I'm your kid. So that's kind of where it lands now, but I can't even imagine finding out that my biological mom is my sister.
I sincerely hope that things work out for this guy. With the amount of hell he's been put through, it's nothing short of staggering how he's able to function and tell his story. This is the kind of trauma that could warp a man's mind for the rest of his life.
That would be insane. He seems to be dealing with it pretty well. Insane.
Oh, hell no!
This proves why the statistics don't lie. 1 in 3 men who take a DNA test discovers paternity fraud. This includes men forced by the court or those who decide to investigate on their own. In this country, there are approximately 150 million men. If 30% is already an alarming number, imagine if DNA tests were mandatory.
It's difficult to imagine a country where DNA tests are mandatory. That would give men a leg up in the system, and modern women would just accuse men of being members of the patriarchy who are out to oppress them. Men can't win no matter which way it goes, but to be honest, I think DNA tests should be default at birth.
That percentage could rise to 40% or even 50%. That's why, when a woman uses the excuse, "You don't trust me," it's important to remember that nearly all of those men trusted their wives. And look how it turned out. This isn't about trust. It's about having clarity for both parties. Many families who take tests like Ancestry end up uncovering secrets that some women have kept hidden for years. Just like in this case, one test was enough for this man to discover that he had lived his entire life in a lie. And for the mother, she simply doesn't care, because responsibility is kryptonite for women.
And the lengths he had to go through to find his biological father is so absurd that it never should have gotten to that point. The amount of disrespect and contempt that mother had for her own child is completely unforgivable. A child is supposed to trust his mother, and she destroyed it with her irresponsibility. But anyway, guys, we are going to be leaving today's episode there. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and your comments. Make sure you guys take care of yourselves, and I'll be seeing you all in the next one. Peace.